Shabbat Shalom and welcome to United Israel World Union. This is our Sabbath morning service coming to you live from the historic Temple Sinai Synagogue in St. Francisville, Louisiana. And thanks to an arrangement with the Julius Freehand Foundation and the West Feliciana Historical Society. We're pleased that you joined us this morning. Today, we will be doing the Shema and the 10 words, and then we will have a teaching from our brother Ronnie Fulcher, who came in from Mississippi to share his insights on the Torah portion today. So let us begin with the Shema in Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. Deuteronomy 11, verses 13 through 21. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your corn and your wine and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for your cattle, that you may eat and be full. But take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. Lost my place. And worship them. And then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless you perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord giveth you. Therefore shall ye lay up these words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them as a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them your children, speaking of them, when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon the earth. And Numbers 15, verses 37 through 41. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a riband of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that you may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go a-whoring. That you may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. I am the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, to be your God. I am the Lord your God.
And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceedingly loud, so that all the people that were in the camp trembled. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, and that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, do all thy work, but on the seventh day, as the Sabbath of the Lord thy God, is it thou shalt not do any work, nor will thy son, thy daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor the stranger that is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them. And on the seventh day he rested. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that your days may be long upon this earth, which the Lord God gave you. You shall not commit murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet thy neighbor's house, shall not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is of thy neighbor's. This was the word of God.
Okay, we're going to start with the Parsha in Genesis 23. And I'm Ronnie Fulcher. I think they said it a while ago. Miss Sherry, such a sweet lady, said that a while ago. Of course, let me preface what I'm going to say today, if I can, based upon a few items. Like when I was studying for this, I was looking at different documents. Okay. Different books, different people, my memory from when I had other training and things like that to put some of this stuff together. So I use things like the Midrash, a couple of different Pentateuchs as far as with Hirsch and Hertz, some of those. The Jerusalem Publication Society Bible, of course, King James with the Strong's translation. And the reason I say that is what I'm going to tell you today, okay, for the most part, I think it's going to be the same. But as we increase our knowledge of Torah, okay, as we increase that knowledge, our viewpoint on certain topics may change of how we perceive it. Because like 10 years ago, I looked at things one way. 15 years ago, I looked at things one way. Last week, I looked at things about this Parsha different than I did last night when I was looking over it again. So we do change, okay? So we want to start with that because when I was looking at this, I understand we are a constant change, okay? You out there, some of you are new to this walk. Some of you have been around a long time like me. And we're all on that walk. We're on that path. Right? So let's start with the Parsha. Now, you know, this is like, the Parsha is like the life of Sarah. But why does it start off the life of Sarah when we talk about her death? I mean, the first thing it talks about, it says Sarah's lifetime, and this is from the JPS edition, okay? Sarah's lifetime, the span of Sarah's life came to 127 years. And Sarah died. I mean, like, wow, this is how old she was, and bam, it changed, and then she has died. Okay? And she died in a certain place. Now, when I start looking at different things and similarities and things of this nature, I look at what do these words mean? What's this town mean? Okay? What's this location, this cave, you name it? Why does it say that? Do I have all the answers? No. Am I searching for more? Yes. And hopefully you are too. But the first thing I noticed is when she died at this place is Hebron, of course, but it's Kiriath Arba, or the city of Arba. But there's another definition of that, is the city of the four giants. That's another topic for another day, but that kind of popped out to me, and there's some other reasons you'll see later when we talk about some of this stuff. But another thing, and in listening to a friend of mine, Rabbi Richmond, when he talked about this, he made a statement. He said, when you look at Sarah, okay, all you ladies are going to like this, I think, okay? She's the first eulogy written in the Bible. It was a woman. And there's a reason for that we'll talk about here in a little bit. She was also the first woman, okay, that we see that a piece of property was bought for her. All right? So we're going to start. That's kind of important. Now, and then we look at also the word Sarah. Of course, we know from the last few weeks teaching, Sarah's name got changed and all this. And you look at the connotation of the word Sarai with an I, okay? It did have a connotation of a princess, okay? And that's fine and dandy. But when her name was changed to Sarah, it's like you're a princess now, but you're over a larger group. So they expanded her reach, and there's a reason for that we'll see a little bit later. But one thing I see about Sarah is look how she did things for other people. You remember when the strangers came to the land, remember? Okay, what did she do? She made them some bread, right? Her tent was open, all right? The rabbis, and then there's some of this, like whether it's the Torah Anthology or some of these other ones, they say that basically Sarah, in her tent, there was a few things that happened, like the Shabbat candle burned from Sabbath to Sabbath. It says the dough, remember going back with the strangers when she needed the dough for them? The dough was always special in her house, in her tent. Okay? And there was a cloud. Now, can I prove all this? No, I can't. But there's some of the writers that people say, and I think there's something there. I think what they were trying to show is how important is this lady? Okay? And there's a reason for that, and we'll look a little bit later. But I think she was a righteous person. There's some people say that even Sarah was even more righteous than Abraham for some of the things that she did. But you think about one thing, and this is what I was looking at. You remember she laughed when the stranger said she's going to have a child? Remember that? I'm like, that's kind of like, wait a minute, why did you do that? But then what does she do? She tends to them and takes care of their needs. That's righteousness. Okay? Now, then we get to this next part. It says, then Abraham rose from beside his dead and spoke to the Hittites, saying, I'm a resident alien among you. And I think this is the most profound statement. I love this. Because, Miss Sherry, what is a resident alien? Right? A ger toshav. A ger toshav is one that you're in the land, okay? There you're in that land, and you know what you do when you're there? You don't commit idolatry. Okay? You don't do that. You obey the laws of these people where you're staying at that point in time. But you've got another place you need to go. This is what I thought about with us. We're resident aliens here in the United States. But where do we want to be sometime, Miss Lynn? A lot of us want to go be in Israel, right? Yeah. But we're here, we obey this, but what do we've got away from idolatry. Okay? And we're obeying these laws here in this land. So I think there's some major meanings right there. Now, as we go on, as I said, it says that like Abraham had limited citizenship when he was there because he was not of that land. And you're going to see how that's going to play into a little bit later when he starts wanting to purchase this property for the cave of Machpelah. All right? Now, so here's what I wrote here. It says, so Abraham was a resident alien in a land that was not his, but adapted to the statutes or laws while there. Are we not the same, as I said? Are we not resident aliens on this earth, in this land? Until we go to our place, we may not have the benefits of those of the land. There's over 20 verses in the Torah discussing the stranger in the land and some of the benefits of that. Right? Look at Leviticus 19:34 as one, and I didn't list every one of them because it would take a while. Leviticus 19:34, the stranger who resides with you shall be to you as a native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So there's certain things they have to do too when we're there. Leviticus 24:22, there shall be one standard for you. It shall be for the stranger as well as the native, for I am the Lord your God. I kind of like that, when he puts that at the end, I am the Lord your God. Yeah. So Abraham said, sell me a burial site among you, that I may remove my dead for burial. And the Hittites replied to Abraham, saying to him, hear us, O my Lord, you are the elect of God among us. He is the Nasi, okay? The exalted one. They knew what he was. They knew he had some kind of special benefit. He was blessed by God. They realized that. But still, what was he? Still, he was a Ger Teshav. It says, bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold his burial place from you for burying your dead. Well, then Abraham bowed low to the people of the land. The Hittites, he said to them, if it is your wish that I remove my dead for burial, you must agree to intercede for me with Ephron, son of Zohar. Because who owned the land? This other guy did, right? He had this place. Let him sell me the cave of Machpelah. That word Machpelah has several meanings from doing some research. There's one that says the cave of twins. Another one says it's the cave, the double cave. Like there was two levels, okay, or two parts. Where another writing says that this is the cave of the fathers. It says fathers, not one. So, Miss Lynn, if it's fathers, well, there's more than one person buried there, or more than one group of people buried there. And some of the writings say, yes, that's true. Some writings say that even Adam and Eve were buried in this cave. Can I prove that? No. Somebody said it. Okay? But they do say that Abraham, buried Sarah there. And you'll see later, where does he get buried? Same place. Okay? I think he kind of knew this is what he wanted to do later. But anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later. And he charged them and said to them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers. In Genesis 49:29. Because there it says, my fathers. All right? In the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan. Remember, he bought it earlier. If you go to Israel now, I'm not sure if y'all been there. I think the other day Ross was there on one of his journeys and looking around up there and taking that tour. The cave of Machpelah. All right? But notice then we go back to Genesis earlier, as far as 23. And it says that this guy Ephron, he owns this land, which is to the edge of the land. Let him sell it to me. He didn't want somebody to give it to him. He wanted to buy it. And there's a reason for that. Okay? And it says at the full price. Now, there's some writers that say if they'd come in there and he'd bought it at a lower price, then Ephron's kinfolk may come back later and say, you know what? we didn't get full price for this. We should get it. We're going to take this cave back over, this burial place, something like that. And they would come back and reclaim it later. But Abraham wants to pay full price. But notice also, he had witnesses there when he says some of this stuff. I think that's kind of neat. Like, you go to court, you got a whole bunch of witnesses saying, hey, it's okay to do this. This is what I want. You go to court, bam. Hey, you said it. This is the deal, right? But there was inheritance laws also in Israel at that time. And this is what I mentioned a while ago. Okay. Because one guy, this guy named Bruce Wells wrote this, and I want to quote if I can. It says, if a family sold inherited land for its full price, ownership passed permanently into the hands of the buyer. So they can't come back. All right? Because the thing about it is, why did Abraham want this cave? Because he wanted a place, and there's writings and stuff. There's people that say there's different things, like I said earlier, about Adam and Eve was there. Remember when Abraham went out and looked for the animals, he's going to kill for the 3 strangers that came up? Notice another thing, they were strangers, right? Okay. So when he went out there looking, there's some writers, different ideas and concepts. Hey, I think it's interesting. Whether it's true or not, it's a different story. But they said he saw this cave before. And he knew the value. And he thought about down the road. All right? And that's why he decided to do this. Now, in Genesis 23:10, it says, Ephron was present among the Hittites. So Ephron, the Hittite, answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites. Notice this, it says, all who entered the gate of his town saying, no, my Lord, hear me, I will give you the field. I will give you the field. And I give you the cave. Like one time. All right? Then is it in it, I give it to you in the presence of my people. That's twice. But Abraham was probably pretty smart. He knew he didn't want it given to him. What did he want to do, Mark? He wanted to buy it. That way he knew he had it forever. I think of another thing. Like Abraham loved Sarah. He didn't want somebody coming there and messing up where he buried her. He cared about that lady. All right? And then it says, then Abraham bowed low before the people of the land and spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, if Ephron gave the land to Abraham, this is something I put in here because of my little notes here. I put them in a different color so I'll make sure I get them in the right order. Okay, if only you would hear me out, let me pay the price of the land. Accept it from me that I may bury my dead there. And Ephron replied to Abraham, saying to him, my Lord, do hear me, a piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Well, some people say, well, Abraham had a lot of money, Ephron had a lot of money, so what's the big deal about 400? But the fact is, it was the price of the land. Now, some people say that maybe Ephron was trying to throw Abraham off. I don't know, all that kind of stuff. Who knows Ephron's mind back then? I don't know. We can surmise anything. All right? But the bottom line was, Abraham says he accepted Ephron's terms, and Abraham paid out to Ephron the money that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver at the going merchant's rate. To me, it's another test right there. Hey, we're not going to give you a lower value for this land based upon like some kind of conversion rate or whatever. Whatever the rate is, this is what we're going to pay for the shekels. So, Ephron's land in Machpelah near Mamre, the field with his cave. Notice this, and I like this because, I bought some land here a while back and I had a description. It tells different posts here, this and other, right? You got all this surveyors do all their thing. Well, they didn't have all that back then. We didn't have all these coordinates, latitude, longitude, and all that kind of stuff. So they had to go out there when they were looking at buying a piece of property. Well, it's going to go from here to here. This mountain, that mountain, or in this case, from these trees to these trees. As long as Mark, as the trees are still there, we're okay, right? Otherwise, it could be an issue. So, He says, with its cave and all the trees anywhere within the confines of that field. All the trees passed to Abraham as his possession in the presence of the Hittites of all who entered the gate of the town. And then Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, now Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field with its cave passed from Hittite to Abraham as a burial site. Now we're going to go to Genesis 24. And it says, I got to look at this right here, and I questioned some things like, it says Abraham was now old. What do you mean? He's on up there, right? Right, Dave? He's on up there. You mean like he's not old? And so we see it. But how do we know? Okay, except we accept the terms of God, but we always want to put it in our language. A lot of people look at the Bible, they think of it like westernized civilization, and we can't do that. We have to look at what's the meaning of when it was written. How would they look at it? Do we know all that? We take historians' word for it, right? I mean, we take other people. We got archaeologists like Dr. James Tabor. We got Jodelle Onstadt, all the great work she's done, and these different people that do all this stuff, this history and archaeology and stuff. Okay? But we start going back and looking at the historical evidence that's there as far as what we know and how this was done. Anyway, it says, Abraham was now old and advanced in years. And the Lord blessed Abraham in all things, and Abraham said to the senior servant, and some people want to say this is what, Eliezer, I think this is what some people say. Of course, some writings actually use that name. Of his household, who was in charge of all that he owned, he said, put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth. Now, I got to looking at this thing and I'm like, now why is he putting his hand under the thigh? Some writers say by putting your hand under the thigh, you're committing not only to this man, but to the descendants of this man. So you have to fulfill your bargain. In Genesis 47:29, now the time drew near that Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph and said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. So what's he doing, Mark? He's telling them, hey, make this vow to me, don't leave me in this land. Take me somewhere else. That's another lesson for another day. Okay? And that, if we go back to Genesis earlier, 24, that you will not take my wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. So he said, I don't want to get somebody from here. What do I want to do? I want you to go somewhere else and get me a bride for her. In fact, he wants to get it for what? His son Isaac, or Isaac. And the servant said to him, what if the woman does not consent to follow me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham answered him and said, oh, no account must you take my son back in. On no account must you do that. The Lord God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from my native land, who promised me on oath, saying, I will assign this land to your offspring. He will send his angel before you, and you will get a wife for my son from there. I think about Abraham like, okay, Abraham, you knew something before you said this. Or did he pray and God had already told him this is what's going to happen? I mean, does people just kind of pull words out of the air? I mean, that'd be like a prophet saying something, and what if it didn't come to true, Mark? It could be an issue. So did Abraham have this revelation? Had he prayed that this is what he wants to happen? Okay? And a lot of times, it's just like us. I think there are times we have revelations from God. God speaks to us. It's through my mind. I've never had an audible word, that bam, it's spoken. I've heard people And churches say they said that, but that's them, and that's fine. But the thing about it is, he had such confidence in what he was told by God, or God spoke to him in a still small voice, and he knew what was going to happen, so he could pass this on. Because you think about this guy, okay? You think about this servant. If he's going to get up there and he's going to journey way over from where he's at, I was looking at some maps, and man, he had a little journey mark. He didn't like, hey, I'm just going to go down the road, jump in my car, and I'm going to ride down the road. There he's got 10 camels, right? They don't get there overnight. There's another story about that. But anyway, the issue is, here it is. He's got to convince this guy to go. But he had trust in Abraham, and he had trust in Abraham's God when he did this. And if the woman does not consent to follow you, you shall then be clear. So he gave him an out. Hey, if she doesn't do it, okay, that's fine. Just don't take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham and swore to him as bidden. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels. Now, why 10? I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that he's going there with 10 camels to show that Abraham has got some money. Okay? Or he's got some prestige or something like that. That's kind of what I think it was. If I'm going somewhere and I'm going to try to bring a bride back, I better show up with something. I remember years ago, Mark, I had me a little old Ford Pinto. Had a lot of rust on it and stuff like that, but it got me from point A to point B. You know? And we're like, don't want to go to nobody's house with this, right? But anyway, that's what we had, that's what we did. He took 10 of his master's camels and set out, taking with him all the bounty of his master. So he took a bunch of stuff with him. Because one thing about it, when he gets there, he wants to give to the family some stuff for this bride, right? And he's made his way to Harim, or Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. Mark, you'll like this one, I think. Nahor, I got to look, you know what it means? It means snorer. This guy snores a lot. That's where he got the name. I'm like, okay. I just thought that was cute when you start looking at these words and these names and how people give names and things and what they mean. I think names have such a meaning, because I think I was talking to Joe Dale the other day. We thought names have such a bearing. If you name a child something, you know, how did it affect that person's life, or how that, some of the attributes of that. That's another lesson for another day. Anyway, so he did all this stuff, and he said, made the camels deal by the well outside the city at evening time. Now, I think that's kind of important. So somewhere in the afternoon. So this is the time that the women would come out to the well. Right, Sherry? They would come out to the well at that point in time, and they're going to get water, and usually get like a pitcher of water. They're going to take it back to the house. Maybe they'll use it to cook with. Maybe they're going to use it for some other means, whatever, just store it for overnight. Somebody gets up in the middle of the night, hey, I need a glass of water. Okay? Like Dave's back there drinking his coffee right now. Maybe they're going to make coffee, if they made coffee or tea, whatever they had back at that point in time. Okay? But he did that. Okay? Now, so when he made the camels kneel down by the well outside the city, okay, he said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, grant me good fortune this day and deal gracious with my master Abraham. Wow, he's talking to God, right? He's wanting favor from God. Here am I journeyed all this way. I need something to happen. Here I stand by the spring as the daughters of the townsmen came out to draw water. Let the maiden to whom I say, please lower your jar that I may drink, and who replies, drink, and I will also give water to your camels. I mean, she's almost put a fleece before there, Miss Lynn. I mean, you put hey, I need to know. How many times have we prayed, Miss Sherry, get up at God, I need an answer. I don't know if this is right or wrong. I'm trying to do the right thing. But God, help show me the way. Should I do this or not? I remember years ago, I had a friend of mine, he wanted to buy him an old Willis Jeep. It was $500. I remember that. That's a long time ago. He said, God, I don't know if I need to buy it or not. He said, but I only got $500. The guy wanted more than that, I think it was. And he said, look, it's your will, God. if he takes $500? Well, the guy took $500, Mark. He got the Jeep. And some people say, well, Ronnie, is God really that trivial thing? Well, why not? Why not? You know, I prayed about coming down here this morning. God, get all the deer out of the way, because I knew they were moving. You know, and I didn't want to hit them, something big hung up, and I couldn't get down here. I'll tell you something else about that a little bit later. But anyway, you have decreed for your servant Isaac, thereby, for this woman, of course that's what that was for, thereby shall I know that you have dealt graciously with my master. In other words, we know this is right. But I like what this, John, he said, because when he said this, immediately something happened. You know, how many times we get up here, Miss Sherry, and we pray, and maybe 6 months before we get an answer. You know, even though it's the right time, sometimes we want it right then, right? And he had scarcely finished speaking when Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel and the son of Milcah and the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out with her jar on her shoulder. That's where they toted it, right? I'm going to use that word tote, right? So all y'all are listening from another part of the world or whatever, that's what we use that word tote, right? All right. Do what, Dave? Okay. And the maiden was very beautiful, a virgin whom no man had known, and she went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. And the servant ran toward her and said, please let me sip a little water from your jar. And what did she say? Drink, my lord. She said, and she quickly lowered a jar upon her hand and let him drink. And when she had let him drink his fill, she said, I will also draw for your camels until they have finished drinking. It doesn't just, I'm going to draw some water. What did it say? Till they finish drinking. Now, look, I'm not a camel expert, but I use Google, right? I said, how much water does a camel drink? And they say, no, Google, one of the answers was, they can drink from 30 to 50 gallons at a time. Okay? How many camels was it, Mark? 10, right? And she's got a pitcher on her shoulder. That's what she's using, probably, to draw the water. But the thing about it was, she doesn't know this guy. Remember, he's a stranger. But she called him Lord. But don't think of this. I mean, a lot of people use that word Lord just as this is an elect person. I mean, she saw the camels. She saw the goods on the camels. She said, this guy's got some money. Or somebody's got some money, right? So she knew he was well off. And I'm not taking away from her at all, because here there's a stranger, and she gets up there, and she just said, I'm going to do this. Wow. It's like when I come here, or anywhere else where these people that's in it today, and some more people that, you know, sometimes they're here, they show such loving kindness. Sherry, always, when I come in. Hey, how you doing? Miss Lynn, you're the same way. They're going to hug your neck and stuff like that. Or people are going to shake your hand, hug your neck down here, because they care. And that loving kindness you can feel. And I'm not just saying it because I'm here. I say it everywhere I go. But she did this, so she's got to draw water. It's already the evening time. Now, Mark, they didn't go out there and flip a switch and turn the lights on either. So hopefully it was, enough in the afternoon. There's enough time for her to go get the pitcher and fill up the trough for these camels to drink. But you're looking at from 300 to 500 gallons. That's a chunk of water. She did. Wow. And there's a reason for that later too, because think of her kindness. Remember I talked about Sarah's kindness earlier? Now Rebecca's doing some of the same thing. The kindness. Anyway, I think this is a Ronnie Fulcher thing, and I'll just say Ronnie Fulcher 1 and 1. But she had to have Dave. She had to have an unction from God. There's some reason she did this. It was either in her nature to automatically do this, or maybe we got up here, John, and God spoke to her and said, "Do this." Either way, she did it, and she got credit for it, right? It's written in the book. You know, some people say, well, you know, there's not a lot of stuff written by women in the Bible. Don't know why. Don't want to go there, per se. But you will see some things, the person's name that did certain things. Okay, and their name is in that book, right here. I was thinking on the way down, and that's something we can talk about later, but maybe with Ross when he gets back or whatever, or Dr. Tabor. But, you know, I think it'd be a good thing, too, Sherry, is like get pictures of the people with UIW and put something in a book, their little story, and have it available. Because that way, one thing, when you go to a conference, oh, I know that person. It's in this book. Or you may see, and some other people said, well, you know, write a little story about how you come to this. Put it in this book. And we could read about that. Because what do we do? We're reading about people in the past. Sooner or later, we're going to be the past. And there'll be other people. Not that we're lifting ourselves up, but know that there are people that are sojourners in this land. They're pioneers that's doing what we're doing today. I'm going to start to preach in a minute, so you got to watch out there. Okay. Let's go. Do what, Dave? Okay. The man, meanwhile, stood gazing at her, silently wondering whether the Lord had made his errand successful or not. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing half a shekel, 2 gold bands for her arms, 10 shekels in weight. So he's going to give her a gift for this. Pray tell me, he said, whose daughter are you? Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? Notice he said us. Didn't say me. Notice that, Mark. All those camel drivers or whatever they got. He's going to take care of that and them people too. And she replied, I am the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Dahor. And she went on, there is plenty of straw and feed at home, and also a room to spend the night. The man bowed low in homage to the Lord and said, Blessed be the God, Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his steadfast faithfulness from my master. You give the credit to God. And this is a Ronnie thing here, and a lot of y'all do it here, and I imagine a lot of y'all on the internet do the same thing. When things happen, we always give God the credit. We give God the credit. Thank God for what happened. You know, it's like, hey, I didn't have a wreck coming down here today. Thank God. Okay? Hey, sometimes, I almost burnt the bread right in the oven, but I didn't burn it. I think that's thankful. Genesis 24 and 28. The maiden ran and told all this to her mother's household. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out to the man at the spring, and when he saw the nose ring in the hands on his sister's arm, he's like, why is he running out there? What's it to him? I mean, who's going to give her away? Laban? For her father. Okay, we'll talk about that another time maybe. Thus the man spoke to me. He went up to the man, and he was still standing beside the camels at the spring. Come in, O blessed of the Lord. He said, why do you remain outside when I have made ready the house and a place for the camels? So the man entered the house, and the camels were unloaded. And then the camels were given straw and feed. Notice this, the animals were taken care of first. I thought that was pretty neat. They were taken care of first. And the water was brought to bathe his feet and the feet of the men with him. Now, there's one writing that I've read years ago that said there were some people in idolatry that worship the dust on people's feet. Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it, Mark? Like, come on. But anyway, I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe this is a custom and a tradition to wash the feet. I mean, if you're going into somebody's house, I mean, if I go over to Miss Lynn's house right here, I don't want to walk in my muddy boots, do I? I might get in trouble. I went to somebody's house here a while back. They had white carpet, Miss Lynn. I'm going like, okay, that's fine and dandy. If you have white carpet, that's your prerogative. But I guarantee you I won't wear muddy boots. All right. But then the food was set before him, and he said something. He said, I will not eat until I have told my tale. He's going to go about his master's business before he takes care of his own needs. I like that. He knew what his master told him to do. He's going to take care of that first. Wow. How many times have we seen people that take care of their own needs before they take care of the needs of others? Genesis 24:34. I am Abraham's servant, he began. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he's become rich. He has given him sheep and cattle, silver and gold, male and female slaves, camels and asses. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore my master his son in her old age, and he was assigned to him everything he owned. So what does it mean? Basically, he's going to get everything. Okay, all this stuff. Now my master made me swear, saying, you shall not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in this other land where I dwell. But you shall go to my father's house, to my kindred, and get a wife for my son. Bloodlines, right? Bloodlines. And I said to my master, what if the woman does not follow me? And he replied to me, the Lord whose ways I have followed will send his angel with you and make your errand successful. And you will get a wife for my son, for my kindred, from my father's house. Thus only shall you be freed from my promise, if when you come to my kindred, they refuse you, and only when they shall be freed, and then they shall be freed from my promise also. I came today to the spring, and I said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, if you would indeed grant success to the errand on which I am engaged, as I stand by the spring of water, let the young woman who comes out to draw and to whom I say, please let me drink a little water from your jar, and who answers, you may drink, and I will also draw for your camels. Let her be the wife whom the Lord has decreed for my master's son. So what's he doing? He's telling him about the prayer. Mark, we would pray sometimes for certain things to happen, and I've done this. I said, you know what? I prayed this a while back. This is what has happened. Now, you ain't got to convince me, Miss Sherry, that it happened. But sometimes it helps other people. Like sometimes we'll tell people to lift them up. Like we'll get up here and we'll say this. Hey, this happened the other day. God did this for me. God did that for me. Okay? And so doing, telling it's a God gets the glory. Okay? Maybe we encourage somebody on their walk with God by so telling them. Because they don't know your experiences. Okay? But we tell them what God did. Well, okay. Anyway, I scarcely finished praying in my heart when Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder and went down to the spring and drew. And I said to her, please give me a drink. And she quickly lowered the jar and said, drink, and I will also water your camels. So I drank, and she also watered the camels. And I inquired of her, whose daughter are you? And the daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him. And I put the ring on her nose and the bands on her arms. Now notice everything that was said came to pass, Dave. All of them. He said I needed it a certain way. So the thing is, cannot we be specific? We ask God for something? Why not? Years ago, I was looking for a vehicle. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I know what I wanted in it. I wanted a certain thing. And you know what, Miss Lynn? I prayed about this, and you know what? I found the exact one I needed, okay? Everything was on it, like I said. The only thing I didn't mention in Mark was the color. He was white. I didn't say about the color, but everything I wanted for this vehicle, and I found it matter of fact, I found it in Louisiana. Up around Bastrop, Louisiana. That's where I found it. I'm like, wow, look at this. So why can't we be where we ask specifically for a specific thing? I mean, if God could heal a person, God could do this and God could do it, we know he can. Why can't we ask for specifics? Do it. Okay. Let's go on. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead to verse 48. And then I bowed low in homage to the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who led me on the right way to get the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you mean to treat my master with true kindness, tell me. If not, tell me also that I might turn right or left. In other words, hey, if you're not, I'm going to go back with her, or what am I going to do? I'm going to go without her. Let me know something. And then Laban and Bethuel answered, the matter was decreed by the Lord, so I'm agreeing with you, right? We cannot speak to you good, bad, or good. Here's Rebekah before you. Take her and go. And let her be the wife to your master's son as the Lord has spoken. And when Abraham's servant heard these words, he bowed low to the ground before the Lord, paying homage to God. I heard this saying years ago. It says, if a person's eyes leak, the head doesn't swell. If we prostrate ourselves, if I get that word right, okay? We get ourselves before God and be humble. I think is a key point. Because I think if we let our egos get away from us, it could be some problems down the road, because then our egos determine our action. That's another lesson for another day. Anyway, then the servant brought out objects of silver and gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah, and he gave gifts, gave presents to her brother and her mother. That he and the men with him ate and drank. So notice that he did all this stuff. He did everything he's supposed to do, gave them the stuff, made the deal, and now I'm going to eat. But he and his men together. They say in the military, they'll say that the guy that's in charge of the troops, Miss Sherry, take care of your men first. I run a company, and I've learned if I take care of the people that help me, I'm blessed. But if I'm always looking for myself and looking just for me, they may not do what they need to do and do it to quality and stuff, and then I suffer. But help out others, and so doing, you're blessed. Another subject, another day. Then he and the men ate and drank, and they spent the night. When they arose the next morning, he said, give me leave to go to my master. But her brother, watch this, and her mother said, let the maiden remain with us 10 days. I have daughters. I have 3 daughters. I love them to come to the house. I hate to see them leave. I understand that. But the deal was made, right? You got to obey the deal. He said to them, do not delay me now, that the Lord has made my errand successful. Give me leave that I may go to my master. And they said, let us call the girl and ask for her reply. They called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? She just met him the day before, right, Mark? Just the day before. But she had the trust in God, I think, too, to do this. Because, hey, I'm leaving my land, I'm leaving my family, and I'm going to go do this thing. Whew. That's a lot. Can you imagine, like, Miss Lynn, you just get up here and you just say, hey, I'm going to leave right now, we're going to move to Alaska? It better be God, right? It better be God. Okay. Will you go with this man? And she said, I will. So they sent off their sister Rebekah and her nurse, so they had a chaperone, right? Along with Abraham's servant and his men, and they blessed Rebekah and said to her, there's a little, in some Bibles, you have this little, it's almost like a little poem or a little song, whatever. Oh, sister, may you grow into the thousands of myriads. May your offspring seize the gates of their foes. So he's giving her a blessing when she leaves. Okay? That there be her offspring will be in control and have a lot. The Rebekah and her maids, now notice that here, okay, the first place said nurse, and then they come back down a little bit later in verse 61. It says, then Rebekah and her maids arose. So they got a nurse, and they got the maids, mounted the camels, and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Isaac had just come back from the vicinity, okay, of Beer-lo-Harah, for he had settled in the region of the Negev, and Isaac went out walking in the field toward evening. And looking up, he saw the camels approaching. Now, there is some speculation on this field where he was. Some people say this place where he was, where the temple was built. Can I prove that? No. Some speculate on that. Could be, but something about this makes sense. Okay? He saw the camels approaching. Raising her eyes, Rebekah saw Isaac, and she had alighted from the camel, and she said to the servant, "Who is the man walking in the field?" And she didn't know him. She saw somebody coming that way, in that direction, right? And the servant said, "This is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself. This goes back to some other traditions, right? They have about covering your head, okay? Or in some cases, it can cover your face. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Isaac then brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he took Rebekah as his wife. Notice what he did. Where did he take her? What? Yeah, but he took it to the tent of his mother. Didn't take it to the daddy's tent. Of course, wouldn't have done that. But he took it, she's not there. But the thing about it was, this guy loved his mom. There's no doubt. Okay? And the tent is empty. But if we go back to Abraham's wife, Sarah, she had certain attributes, right? She had certain things about her, and that's why the names are written in the book. So who gets the tent? Of course he does. But he took her to that place because of her. What did she have? Loving kindness too. Because look what she just did. Bam. She got up there and gave water to a stranger. She gave water to all these camels. Bam. Just did it. I think she obeyed the voice of that angel, the voice of God, whichever one she heard speaking to her. And because of that, she got this place. Because I remember, as you remember earlier, I talked about the 4 things that they say was there. But I think it's because of her kindness, like Sarah's, is the reason they took to that tent. I mean, more than likely, Isaac's got his own tent, Dave. I mean, young man, got his place. He's going to inherit everything. He's probably got his own place. But there's a reason for that. Now, after all of that, I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit to Genesis 25 and 7. It says this was the total span of Abraham's life, 175 years. Okay? Now there's one version, if I get my computer to do right here. Okay? Because here mine says the total span of Abraham's life. What does yours say, Miss Lynn, in verse 25, Genesis 25 and 7? What does it say? Would you read that to me?
And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 175 years.
Okay. Some translation says something very similar to that, but they say he obtained old age. And we're like, okay, he obtained old age. I mean, if he's 100 and something, a mark according to us, that's on up there, right? Yeah. But who's to say they aged like we do today? I saw some couple the other day, I think they were married 106 years or something like that. No, they were both 106 years old, 106 years old. My bad. Okay? Been around a long time. They looked like they were getting around, but I imagine they had certain things. But you've been 170 something? Come on. So more likely their physical attributes, the stuff they had back then, was better. That's my opinion. Don't quote me on that. All right? But the thing about it was, when he breathed his last breath, at a good ripe age, old and contented, it says in my version, he was gathered to his kin. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of what? Machpelah. The cave of the fathers. He says that in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar, the Hittite, face of Mamre, The field that Abraham had bought from the Hittites, there Abraham was buried, and Sarah's wife after the death of Abraham. So it all comes together. From the first part of Genesis 23 all the way to the end. It's like there's a purpose for this. There's a purpose. And I think, this is just Ronnie saying this, I think everybody in here and everybody's listening has a purpose. You have a destiny with God. You have to find it. Okay, and go for it. And there's some people sometimes like, Sherry, you ever thought sometimes like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I got to do it. Another thing is, hey, I look back and say, I'm not as smart as so-and-so. I'm not them. I mean, you look at Dr. Tabor, how smart that man is, right? You look at Joe Dale and all that, hey, they blow my mind, but I'm not them. And you're not me. Sherry's Sherry. John's John. So you're going to use your attributes and things that you have to find your way with God. Wherever you are on the path is where you're supposed to be right now. Okay? Just keep going. And you're going to fall sometimes. I think Ross had taught about this a while back, a few weeks ago. But you can get up and go on. You will learn. And I know John, Sherry, Dave, everybody's in here today, Mark, everybody. You know, we made mistakes, but we learn from it and we get better and better and better. Sarah, Rebecca, they probably didn't start out exactly like they were told right here in the book. They probably went through things. Who knows? It's not written. We don't know that. But we evolved. Dr. Tabor didn't start out being an archaeologist maybe at 5 years of age. Jo Dale didn't have all the knowledge she has about the stuff that she's looked at when she started maybe at 5 or 6, but she did it over time. I've been in this movement since 1991, when I first got introduced to the Noahide group up there with no, he's not a doctor, I'm sorry, but David Davis. J. David Davis. That's where I met Ross and Dr. Tabor and stuff. It's a journey, folks. You're going to learn and grow. All righty. John, do you say we're going to have what time is it? I got 11:32.
12:45, I think it was time to get back.
And we're going to have a meeting and discussion group, right, at 12:45 at the office. Is that correct? All righty. Thank you so much for letting me come down and teaching today. Hope everybody got something from it. I know I did. I've learned more this week than I have last week, I promise you. All righty. Thank you.